Hey guys, thanks for joining me for another Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia video. Today we're going to do a Should You Poll on the Kelger and Machina banners. So these are coming out in just a few days. It'll come out on the night of the 4th, and right now I am recording it on the 1st, so just a few days away. So I'm going to talk about, first, if there's any notable spheres you want to look out for, like if you're summoning, which EXs are worth holding on to. And then we'll talk about the characters, the banner characters, and if you should summon or not. So in terms of spheres, I would say actually every EX here, other than Kelger, I don't know what Kelger's is, but we won't worry about Kelger, because if you're summoning, you're going for Kelger, right? But every sphere here has some value, right? So like Zande and Gao are both brave damage spheres. The only thing with Zande is that Zande is on weakness damage trigger, but brave damage spheres are good for A slot. Machina's got an A slot attack sphere. I think it's attack and I brave. Sid, I believe, has a brave damage sphere, and I think Trey has an attack and max brave one. So like, yeah, there's a bunch of just A slots that have decent attack or brave damage on them. So I think any of these spheres are worth holding on to. They're all pretty solid, right? Now, if we look at the banners themselves, Machina, I would say Zande is definitely a throwaway. He is a dark earth damage dealer, but he's not going to compete with anything. I think, with Ri Shinryu coming, a character like Zande could have value in the future because there could be an orb that wants earth or dark damage, and being an LD only character, the fact that you're not dealing damage isn't as big of a deal because you're helping fulfill the orb. So I think that's the value some players are seeing in the future. But right now on global, there's no reason to get Zande. So Gao, I would say, is actually a really solid budget off-turn damage dealer. So what Gao does, he doesn't really tank, but if the party gets hit, he double counters, and he can heal on counter, which is really, really nice. Gao is a character that's really good to pair with other tanks, because the way Gao's counter work is it's any party member gets hit and he'll do it. So you can pair him with, say, an Oron or a Gladio, and even though they might be cover tanking or, stealing the hits, Gao will always trigger his counters. So he's always been a really nice combo with tanks. So Gao is a character where I'd say is if you decide to go in on this banner and get him, he is worth building up if you like to run tanks. Gao is a very good LD only character that I do really like. And then we have Machina. Machina is a damage dealer that he does do follow-up damage, and he has counters. And it's funny because I would say Machina right now, I would say more of his value is in his off turn than as just a straight up damage dealer, just because he's been power crept a lot in terms of damage. So I don't think Machina is really worth going for right now in terms of just being your main DPS. I think he has more value in doing off turn, but even then there are other off turn options. Machina is also really, as a damage dealer, built around the BT, so he is going to be a full invest character because you need his BT effect to get his special HP plus attack, which he does combo well with Queen. So if you really like Queen and want to have two really good DPS characters going, you could do that. But I would say this banner is probably a pretty safe skip. Just in terms of off turn, in terms of damage dealers, there's way better things out there. Even though Gao's kind of nice, he's not really worth chasing, right? So I would say this banner's probably a skip. And then here we have Kelger. So we have Kelger, we have Trey, and we've got Sid. Sid, I would say, he doesn't have a ton of value. I mean, I think he dispels, which is pretty nice, but his damage isn't really going to be there as an LD only character, right? And then we have Trey. Trey is actually a really solid LD only character because he's a trap based character. And off turn and traps, these are the type of things that work well as an LD only character because you're not just relying on straight damage. You're doing more damage over time. You're ticking, you're ticking HP damage bonus and things like that. So Trey definitely is usable. I could definitely see Trey being useful on Mission Quest 1 Shinryu because that wants all type 0. And Trey's the type of character I think that actually could do pretty well in that fight. But I don't think you should chase just for Trey. But if you go for Kelger and get Trey, he is a character worth building. I think as an LD only character does a really good job. Then we have Kelger. Kelger, you already know that your boy's going all in on Kelger. I love his kit. I love that he's a beastie boy, right? And I think he's going to be very good. So Kelger, he's a trap-based character, so he does lay down traps, but then he's also an evade counter tank. Just so much value in what he's doing there. He's going to do a lot of damage over time, even if his on-turn damage isn't going to be like Astos level or anything. But I would say his on-turn damage is probably going to look very average and maybe even below average, but his value is going to come in counter-tanking and traps and dealing a lot of damage over time. And I think if you look at the damage a character like this deals over the span of a fight, he is, in terms, a top-tier damage dealer that way, right? Now, Kelger is a character I would actually highly recommend players go for. It's going to depend, once again, your resources, your status, what your box looks like. But Kelger has so much value because I feel like every box needs some type of off turn in it. I feel like every box needs a good tank. And I feel like every box needs damage. And I feel like Kelger ticks 3 of those boxes, right? And because he's not built for his damage, he's not built on like just his on turn damage, he is a character that will age well. Evade ages well. Like tanking ages well. Like these things will never get old. They're never going to be bad. So the fact that he's dodging and counter tanking, like, it's going to age incredibly well. Dodge counter tanks, like look at 8, right? Like 8 from Type 0, which just used a lot on Mission Quest 1, which is a modern Shinryu fight. 8 is an LD only character, but his counter tanking ages so well that as an LD only character he gets away with it. Kelger is that type of character where, like, if he ever gets super outclassed, he's still going to be as like kind of like a retro older character, will still be very usable for a long time to come. So I think there's a lot of value in Kelger. I think he's a very good, safe investment for your resources. I don't think he's like a must draw, but if we're looking at like characters of the month, I think Kelger and Lena are my top 2 picks of the month. So if you're aiming like what are the 2 best characters I should grab, Kelger's one of them. So I would highly recommend players going on Kelger. I think he's going to be a really awesome pickup for you guys. I'm definitely going to go all in on him. So let me know what you guys think. Let me know if you're going to summon on these banners or not. Let me know if you're excited for the Kelger and Machina. Thanks for watching. We'll catch y'all on the next one.